Hello, this is Nova Topflex, and if you don't already know about the Whisker menu in the Xfce desktop environment, it's really the cholesterol-free desktop. It's Xfce. It is a desktop environment, a computer environment of sorts, but I'm actually not presenting you Xfce 4. I'm only presenting the panels of Xfce 4. As you might know, I am officially changing the setup so it looks more like, for instance, Ubuntu. On the top left of the screen, you'll see a Whisker menu rather than a standard application menu. You have different options for how to modify your Whisker menu. Normally, you'll have it shown as a list, but you can also show it as icons, or you can show it as a tree. And I'm going to show you how these look different. Now, there is no option for whether or not you should show application descriptions, but I don't think that you could show application descriptions on a grid of icons. But you can do it in other ways, at least some ways. This is what it looks like as a list, and now as a tree. So this is what the tree looks like. So far, it doesn't look much different from the list, but you should be able to see the tree having at least somewhat a different situation from a list. You could also change the application names so that they're generic instead of the official names. As you might be able to tell, this means that, for instance, Blender becomes known as 3D Modeler. So if I go to Graphics, Blender is now known as 3D Modeler. Can I still search for 3D Modeler through Blender? Yes, I can actually still type Blender and it should still show up. Bird font, font editor. Color picker, font editor, document viewer. These are generic names, but it's not required. And if you have multiple applications of the same purpose especially, or if that's just what happens when you have multiple desktop environments, I actually prefer not using generic application names. You can also show the names of the categories. You can do application tooltips, and you can do application descriptions. You have different sizes for applications and categories. None, very small, smaller, small, normal, large, larger, very large, for both applications and categories. You could change the menu width and menu height, normally set to 450 for the width and 500 for the height, and depending on your display compositor, you can also change your background opacity. Now for appearance, you can position categories horizontally. This is what happens when you position them horizontally. If you position them horizontally, it means that they're either on the top or the bottom. Normally, it's the top. Now, if you do it vertically as standard, it's going to be on the right, but you can change it to the left. So you could do, for instance, this combination puts the category icons on the bottom. It just depends on your preferences. Now, you could position the profile on the top as usual, or this is what it would look like if the profile's on the bottom. Can you position the search entry on the bottom, even if you don't position the profile on the bottom? Yes, you can. And what about commands? Can you position them next to search entry? Of course you can position the commands next to search entry. Your profile can be a round picture, a square picture, or hidden. This is what the Whisker menu looks like with a hidden profile picture. If you have a square picture instead of a round picture, you will notice that the picture is different. But again, this is what hidden looks like. And you may not really notice the difference between a round and a square picture at first, or at least it depends on specifically what the icon looks like. So it really depends on what specifically you're doing. Now, you can display the panel button as an icon, a title, or an icon and a title. Now, if you don't have an icon, then you need to have a title, and if you don't have a title, you need to have an icon. You can use just a single panel row, but I don't think there are multiple panel rows here. You can display the icon, the title, or both. The title, in my case, is just applications. The default categories, you can default to favorites, recently used, or all applications. You can stay visible when focus is lost on the Whisker menu, which it kind of feels like it as well right now. stay visible when focus is lost. Can I let it stay visible while focus is lost? Yes, I can. Can I change it? Unfortunately, not at first. But let me actually do this. Will this become invisible when focus is lost? Yes. You could also sort categories, but you don't need to sort all the categories necessarily. This is what it looks like with unsorted categories, for instance. And yes, you could definitely sort the categories, and you can also switch them by hovering. This is what the hovering means. While you cannot see the cursor, I'm actually getting it to magically change the applications that are listed. Education, electronics, games, graphics, ham radio, internet, multimedia, office, other, science, settings, system. You can also do recently used. Is there a minimum number of items you could do? Yes, and that's 0. Is there a maximum? Yes, that's 100. You could also include favorites or not include them. And for session commands, you have a choice whether or not to show the confirmation dialog. I always, for safety reasons especially, try to keep that confirmation dialog a checkbox. You have different options. You could do settings manager, lock screen, switch user, log out, restart, shut down, suspend, hibernate, and then you also have the slow logout, not the automatic fast logout, but the regular logout. Edit applications and edit profile with the different commands as usual. And search actions can be changed also. Man pages, search the web, search for files, Wikipedia, run in terminal, and open URI. You also have, for instance, man pages, pattern, command. You can also do all this here, and then Xfce open or whatever other commands you might be using. This is what it looks like when you have all the possible commands like logout as well as the fast logout. So this is what the fast logout means, and this is what the slow logout means. You might notice that they have the same icon. You probably aren't supposed to use them both, but you can definitely change the features and functionality of this Whisker menu to match your needs. And overall, if you like this type of content and would like to learn more, then feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, and try to hack the YouTube algorithm. And signing off.